The 3 wise men were experts of the sky. They saw a star unlike any other. Observing its unusual behavior, they realized this was no ordinary sign, it pointed to the birth of a king. So they prepared gifts and followed the star. They came to Jerusalem, expecting to find a king in a palace. They went to Herod. The wise men said, "We saw his star in the east and have come to worship him." Herod was troubled, indeed, panicked. He knew the prophecies. Israel was expecting the Messiah. But Herod feared losing his throne. Pretending interest, he asked them to search carefully for the child and report back to him. After they left the palace, the star they had seen in the east appeared again. This time, it led them to Bethlehem, to a house, and to a child, not clothed in royal robes, but wrapped in humility. They bowed down and worshipped him. Their gifts were not random: gold, for a king; frankincense, for God and priest; myrrh, pointing to suffering and death. At his birth, heaven already declared who he was: king, priest, and savior. Warned in a dream, the wise men returned home by another way. The account of the wise men appears only in the Gospel of Matthew because each Gospel writer had a distinct purpose. Matthew writes to Jews, Jesus is the Messiah and King. He mentions the wise men, Herod, prophecy, the flight to Egypt, and the return to Nazareth. Mark writes to Romans, Jesus is the servant and Son of God. He records no birth story and begins with Jesus' ministry. Luke writes to Gentiles, Jesus is the Savior for all. He writes about the angel Gabriel, the manger, angels, and shepherds. John writes to the world, Jesus is God himself. He begins with, in the beginning was the Word. There is no repetition, because together they reveal the fullness of Christ. 2,000 years earlier, prophets spoke. After 400 years of silence, heaven finally spoke again. The world expected a king in a palace, but God sent his Son to a manger, wrapped in torn cloth, laid in a feeding trough. Christmas reminds us that God's ways are higher than our expectations. The wise men searched for a king in a palace, but found God in humility. Herod feared losing power, but heaven announced peace. The world looked for greatness, but God revealed grace. We celebrate a Savior's birth. We do not bow to comfort and tradition. We bow to the King who came low to lift us high. That is the true joy of Christmas. Merry Christmas.